Hello friends, welcome to An Academy. How are you all? Very good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, so before moving to the future lecture, what we have asked you from the first lecture is continuity, right? See, now we are entering into the part where if you are not continuous, it will be very difficult for me to explain in this, right? So please try to understand, be regular, because regularity is one thing, discipline is one thing which is very important for the student's life. And telling you frankly about my experience, with my experience, that if you are regular, if you are continuous, if you are disciplined in your life, there is no such exam which you can't clear. Okay, so you need to set a routine for yourself on a daily basis, right? And on that daily routine you need to work. See, if you need to gain success, you need to work hard. You can't run from your hard work. Is it clear? So be regular, try to utilize your time perfectly. And see, in this lockdown you don't have any other work to do, right? So if you don't have any other work, you can study very well. Okay, so you are getting this opportunity to learn. Try to utilize it. Be on time. I have more. Some of you may say, "Sir, we are doing the recorded lecture. Once it record, we used to see that." But I'm telling you very frank. I used to, although I'm recording the video, but I used to make the video such that you can interact with me during the premiere session, and I am continuously available over there to clear your doubts. So please be there during the live session. It encourages me also for doing these lessons. Okay, so let's start then. Let's start. So we have completed the first module of the stress chapter. Okay, in which we have learned about, can anyone say what are the things we learned? Stress, what is stress, what is classification of stress, then we have seen what is stress tensor. Yes, we have seen the equality of shear stress. Then we have looked at the deformation in the bar due to axial load. Then we have seen the two deformation formula due to the self weight of the member, okay, in the rectangular rod and in the conical rod. So let's move forward with this. So third one, now this is very important, deformation in tapered circular rod, deformation in tapered circular rod due to axial load. It is not saying due to self weight, it's saying due to axial load. So it's saying axial load, you don't need to consider the self weight, because we have taken the assumption that self weight of the member is neglected. Okay, so first of all, let me draw the tapered rod. What do you mean tapered rod? What do you mean tapered rod? Tapered means the cross section dimension will not remain same throughout the length. Okay, will not remain same throughout the length. I hope those who are doing my class regularly in the live class, they might have understood this point, that if they are regular, then this even recorded lecture you will not identify how the time passes. Okay, if you are just focusing on what I am delivering. So this is a tapered circular rod, and this is the axial direction. I've applied the point load P on this tapered circular rod. The length of the rod is L. Okay, the diameter at the ends are D1 and D2. D1 and D2 are the diameters. Okay, so you can see that at the different cross section, your dimensions are not same. So I've already told you that when you have to use delta is equal to PL by AE, then over the length L, P, A and E must be constant. Yes, I've told this point. So if P, L and P, A and E are not constant over the length, you need to consider a strip. Okay, you need to consider a strip. So let us consider a strip at a distance h of length dh, of length dh. The length of this strip is dh, and I'm assuming that the cross section area over the strip is constant, right? That is over the length of dh. The diameter is dh, capital dh. You can see that. Okay, so I need to analyze this strip which is subjected to the load of P. Okay, the diameter is dh and the length is small dh. Yes or no? So first of all, before going forward, we are going to just write the d delta strip. We are going to write d delta strip. So what is d delta strip? We can write that P into P is constant into dh upon ah into E. Yes or no? So what you can write about ah? It is circular. So you are going to write pi by 4 into dh square into E. So it becomes 4p by pi into dh square into E, and the numerator it is d small dh. Okay, so this is d delta strip. Now before moving forward, we need to find this dh value. We need to find this dh value. So try to understand the tapered rod variation is linear. The diameter is changing linearly. Okay, so how we can write? Okay, I'm writing over here itself. See, h, I'm starting from the leftmost corner where the diameter is d1 and it ends at L, that is d2. Okay, so at h is equal to 0, what is diameter? At h equal to 0, what is diameter? That is d1. Yes, and at h is equal to L, what is diameter? At h equal to L, what is diameter? That is d2. The diameter is d2. So from 0 to L, what is change in diameter? What is delta ds? What is the change in diameter? Yes, we can write it as d1 minus d2. Yes or no? Look at it. If at h equal to 0, the diameter is d1, and at h equal to L, the diameter is d2. So over a length, I want the change in diameter. So what is the change? That is d1 minus d2. Okay, so for 1 meter length, what will be the change? If over a length L, the change is d1 minus d2. So over 1 meter, what will be the change? d1 minus d2 by L. So we want the change over h distance. So for h meter, for h distance, what is delta dh? We can write this as d1 minus d2 by L into h. Okay, now d1 is constant, d2 is constant, L is constant. So we can write this as k into h. So this is delta dh. That is k into h. Okay, so now I want the diameter at h is equal to h. What is diameter? See, you have find the change, right? And this change is what? It is decreasing the diameter from the initial value. So what we can write dh? d1 minus k into h. d1 minus k into h. So how I am going to say this? See what I am saying about this. Suppose you have 10 rupees. Okay, suppose you have 10 rupees and you have given 10 rupees to the some another person. Suppose you have 10 rupees, you are giving 2 rupees to another person. So what is left with you? What you are going to do? 10 minus 2, that is 8. So this 2 I am saying as a change, and this 10 is your initial diameter. Is it clear? This 10 is your initial diameter. So what is the leftover? That is the diameter at h. Okay, so that dh is equal to d1 minus kh. So now I'm going to substitute over this. So your d delta strip can be written as 4p by pi e into dh upon d1 minus kh whole square. Is it clear? Is this clear? So now you know how to integrate. You know how to integrate. You need to integrate from 0 at h equal to 0 to h equal to L. So delta also 0 to delta. So it becomes delta at the left LHS. At the RHS, constant I'm taking out. Yes. And what is the integral of 1 by a plus bh whole square? What is the integral of 1 by a plus bh whole square? Yes, you write a plus bh to the power minus 2 plus 1 upon what do you write? B, yes or no? So similarly here what we can write? d1 minus kh minus 2 plus 1 upon minus 2 plus 1 k into minus k. Yes or no? This is the integral and limit from 0 to L. So take the constant out. So minus minus becomes plus. So 4p by pi k e. 4p by pi k e. Right. Now what we are going to do here? 1 by d1 minus kh. Yes. From 0 to L. So 4p by pi k e. So when you put the limit, is d1 minus kh is what? Nothing but dh. Yes or no? So at h equal to L, what is diameter? Diameter is d2. So it becomes 1 by d2. At h equal to 0, what is the diameter? Nothing but d1. No, 1 by d1. So now if I solve this, what I'm going to get? 4p upon pi k e d1 minus d2 upon d1 into d2. Okay, so now I can open the k value. So what is the k value you obtained earlier? What is the k value obtained earlier? d1 minus d2 by L. Yes or no? d1 minus d2 by L. K value is d1 minus d2 by L. And here is what? d1 minus d2 upon d1 into d2. So something get cancelled out. You can see d1 minus d2, d1 minus 2 get cancelled out. So from here what we can write? 4pl upon pi e d1 into d2. Yes or no? So one thing that it is very difficult formula to learn. Now I'm making it very simple for you. Or we can write this as delta is equal to PL upon AE. Can you see AE? Yes or no? Can you see PL upon AE? Yes or no? Formula, can you see PL upon AE? Say dear. So you need to remember this formula. You must have learned also this formula with this derivation. So since it is a circular, for if I say a circular of diameter D, so the area is pi by 4 D square. If it is tampered with D1, D2, the area is pi by 4 D1, D2 you can think and you can solve. Is it clear? So delta is equal to pi by 4 D1, D2 into E. Is it clear? Is this point clear to all? Is this point clear to all? Say clear. So remember this formula, very important for the objective. Most of the time they used to ask. Okay. Got the point? Any doubt in this part? Any doubt in this part? Just see to it. Any doubt in the derivation? Any doubt in the derivation? Any doubt in the derivation? So if you understood, please press thumbs up. If you understood, please press thumbs up. Okay. Or say yes, sir, we understood. Yes, we understood. Yes. Okay. So see now. See now. So next is deformation in tapered rectangular bar due to axial load. Due to axial load. Deformation in tapered rectangular bar due to axial load. So see here, if I take a tapered rectangular bar, I need to draw the tapered rectangular bar. Tapered means it is the cross section is not same throughout. Okay, so suppose I'm overhanging it. It's not said about the self weight, it is said about the axial load. So we are going to apply the axial load of P. Okay, going to give the dimensions of the bar. At the bottom it is B1, at the top it is B2. Okay, and the thickness remain constant throughout. Is it clear? So same can be given the horizontal also. No, not that is not an issue. Okay, so I want to find the deformation in this bar. So to find the deformation in the bar, again the area is not constant throughout the length. So if I'm saying this as a length, this is the length. Okay, so I want to find the deformation in the bar. So over a length L, the load is not constant, right? So what we need to do, we need to take a strip at a distance x. You can take the strip from the top also, that's not an issue. I need to take a strip at a distance x of length dx. Of length dx. I need to consider this area. I need to consider this area. So the thickness will be same. One of the dimension will be t only, and the other dimension will be bx. Okay. Okay. So can anyone say what is the bx from the lesson we understood in the previous part? Okay. So for bx, first let us see the strip. So the strip is subjected to the load of P. The length of the strip is dx, and area I'm writing as AH, and this AH is equal to BH into T because it's a rectangular cross section. AH is equal to BH into T. So I need to find the BH part. So at h is equal to 0, what is BH? Nothing but B1. At h is equal to L, what is BH? Nothing but B2. So over a length L, from 0 to L, what is change? Delta BH. What we can write? I want just value. So we can write B2 minus B1, right? So 0 to L, the change is B2 minus B1. So for 1 meter, what is the change? For 1 meter, what is the change? B2 minus B1 by L. So for h meter, what is the change? What is the change? B2 minus B1 by L into h. So this is the change. So this I can write as k into h because B2, B1 and L all are constant. Okay, all are constant. So that is delta BH. Next, see, I want to find BH. So what BH, h I'm taking from the bottom. So while we are moving up, the width is increasing. So this change will be added to the initial value, right? So I'm going to write B1 plus k into h. So this is your BH. Is it clear? Right. So now for this strip, I can write was delta, d delta strip is P into AH, P into DH upon AH into E. So what we am going to write, d delta strip is equal to P into dH upon AH into E. So which can be written as P into dH. AH is what? BH into T. So B1 plus KH into T into E. So this is your D delta strip. This is your D delta strip. Yes or no? So taking the constants out, P by TE to dH upon B1 plus KH. Okay. Now I am going to integrate. So H varies from 0 to L and delta from 0 to delta. Yes or no? So let's see the integration. So at the LHS it will become delta. At the RHS, P by T is constant, so it will be out. What is integral of 1 by A plus BH? ln H. Yes, ln of A plus BH upon B. Yes or no? So what we are going to write? Ln of B1 plus KH. Ln of B1 plus KH upon K, limit from 0 to L. Yes or no? So P by TE, K is out. Ln we need to write. So what is ln when I write H equal to L? So B1 plus KH is nothing but BH. So at H equal to what? At H equal to L, what is BH? Nothing but B2. Yes or no? Nothing but B2. So it becomes ln of B2 minus. And when you put H equal to 0, so that is at H equal to 0, what is BH? Nothing but B1. So it becomes ln of B1. Yes or no? So from here, if I open with the value of K, P by T into E, what is the value of K? B2 minus B1 by L. And here ln A minus ln B, what we can write? Ln A by B. So it becomes ln of B2 by B1. Okay. So again it arises a form of PL by AE. Again it arises a form of PL by AE. P into L upon A into E. Yes. Just another term ln of B2 by B1. Right. So just remember this formula. Again, this formula is important for your objective. Is it clear? Right. Is it clear with the question? Say man, is it clear with this question? Right. Is it clear? Sure? Okay. Let's see the next. So now we are entering into the question part. We'll solve few questions one by one. So first question, which is very common in this stress chapter, right? You might have done this in your college times also. So question number 1, for the bar shown in the figure, if cross section area is 5 centimeter square and Young's modulus E is equal to 200 gigapascal, then determine the deformation in the bar. Okay, so see here, I'm taking a bar. Okay, the two junctions are there. A, B, C, D load is there, and the load is applied such that, suppose here it is 15 kilonewton. Then at junction B there is let us say 35 kilonewton. Okay, at C there is 25 kilonewton, and at D is acting towards left, that is 45 kilonewton. Okay, the length, let us say we mention 1 meter, 2 meter, 1 meter. This is given in the question, right? And you need to find the deformation in the bar. You need to find the deformation in the bar. The load is axial. The load is axial. So first of all, you should understand that you are dealing with the equilibrium body, and this is the equilibrium body in 2D. So if the body is in equilibrium, we have three equations. I've already told you, that is net force along x equal to 0, net force along y is equal to 0, and summation moment in the z direction is equal to 0. So if the load is axial, it cannot create any moment, right? So we have to check only the first equation, that is summation fx is equal to 0. If it is satisfying that equation, then you can proceed with the question. Otherwise, it is not possible for you to solve this question. Is it clear? So first of all, check with summation fx equal to 0. So if you write summation fx equal to 0, you can see 60 minus 60, and that is equal to 0. So body is in equilibrium, so you can proceed. Okay, so first of all, I am going to give you conventional approach. Conventional approach. Conventional approach. So this is a main question. I am not going to hamper that. So conventional approach, first I am drawing the question. First I am drawing the question. So the loads need to be mentioned: 15, 35, 25, 45. So these are the load mentioned at 1 to 1, A, B, C, D. Okay, so for the junction part, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a strip. I'm going to take a strip of dh length. It's my challenge. You never have studied like this in your exams, for your exams, right? You might have learned something. So I'm taking a strip of dh part. Now, while taking a strip, now you can see 5 different areas. You can see 5 different areas. This is the first area. This is the second area. This is third, fourth, fifth. Okay. And this dh is tending to 0. This dh is tending to 0. So you have 5 strips. So I am going to draw the free body diagram because my structure is in equilibrium. My body is in equilibrium. I can draw the free body diagram. And draw the free body diagram. Draw the free body diagram. See here. So this is your first. Here a line is there, junction is there. This is second, third. Again junction is there. This is fourth, and here it is fifth. Okay. Now let us show the load. Let us show the load. So at 1 you can see the 15 kilonewton load. Okay. At 2 you can see the load at the junction, that is 35 kilonewton. Okay. Then at 3 you cannot see any load. At 4 again you can see the load of 25 kilonewton, and at last 5th you can see the load of 45 kilonewton. Okay. So this is the loading. Now I'm going to balance the different body and different point, because if a body is in, if the entire structure is in equilibrium, then each and individual part will be in equilibrium, right? So taking the first object, first body, so if I want to balance this body, so whatever the force is in left, it will balance by the force in the right. Okay, so 15 towards right. Now look at the joint where 15 is acting. So to balance the joint, I need to apply the opposite load of 15. So this joint is balanced, right? Now look at the second member. Look at the second member. You can see that there is a net force of there is a net force of 20 in the right direction. So if there is a net force of 20 in the right direction, it will be balanced by the opposite force in the left of value 20 kilonewton. How I'm writing? 35 minus 15, that is 20 kilonewton. Is it clear? Okay. Similarly, now look at the joint where 20 is acting. So whatever the force is in left will be balanced by the force in the right. So that is again 20 kilonewton. Now look at the third part. So to balance it, we need to apply the opposite load of 20 kilonewton. Yes or no? Right. Now again look at the joint. Look at the joint where 20 is acting. So if the 20 is towards left, on the other member it will be towards right, 20. So if I want to balance now, there is a net force of 45 in the right, so balanced by the 45 in the left. Now again look at the joint where 45 is acting. So if the 45 is towards left, balanced by the 45 towards right. So now what you can see, there is a net force of 45 in the left, which balances the net force of 45 in the right. So you can see this free body diagram. Okay, in the conventional you need to solve like this. Okay, this dh is tending to 0, so first, second and third we will give the naming, not in the second and fourth. Okay, this is 1, 2 and 1 meter, right? And then we go for the analysis. Is it clear? So how we have proceeded? Explaining once again. 15 was acting towards left, balanced by the 15 towards right at B. Okay, now look at the joint. 15 was at the right, so balanced by the 15 towards left. Now looking at the second member where dh is tending to 0, there is a net force of 20 kilonewton towards right, so it is balanced by the 20 kilonewton towards left, right? Now look at the joint B at the junction of 2 and 3. So you can see the net force of 20, so it balanced by the net force of 20 towards right, again balanced by the 20 in the member BC, applied at 4, and again it is balanced. Is it clear? So this is your conventional approach. Okay, this is your conventional approach. Moving to the objective approach. See, I'm telling very clearly we are dealing both for gate and DSC, so you should know both the approach, right? So next is your objective approach. So first of all, I will draw the diagram of the question given. So A, B, C, D, 1 meter, 2 meter, 1 meter. Okay, load is given as 15, 35, 25, 45. 15, 35, 25, 45. This is given in the question, right? So in this objective approach, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to cut any strip. I'm going to take 3 body, 1, 2, 3, A, B, B, C, C, D. Okay, just follow the principle what I'm saying. I'm drawing the free body diagram. So in this free body diagram, we got 3 diagrams, 1, 2, 3. We need to show the load. Okay, so I'm moving left to right. So first of all, show the external loads which is not at the junction at any point, of any point. First show that external load. So that is 15 and 45. Okay, now I am moving left to right. So if I'm moving left to right, the load at the junction will be shown in the free body diagram at the right body, right? For example, at the junction B, there is a 1 and 2. Okay, you are moving left to right, so the right body will be second. So you are going to show the load of 35 at the right body, right? So I'm showing the load of 35 at the right body. Is it clear? Similarly, 25 will be shown at the third one. Okay, is it clear? Okay, now see, I need to balance. So what I said, if the entire body is in equilibrium, then individual part will be in equilibrium. individual joint will be in equilibrium. Okay, so I need to balance the member AB. So to balance the member AB, 15 is acting towards left. So balance by the 15 towards what? 15 towards right. Now balance the joint B. Don't look at the 35 load, that is external. First balance the joint B due to 15. So 15 is acting towards right for the member AB. So for the member BC, it will act towards left. 15. Yes or no? So I need to find the net force at B for the member BC. Net force at B for the member BC. So 35 is acting towards right, 15 towards left. So net force will be towards right, and the value will be 35 minus 15, that is equal to 20. Is it clear? Now balance by the opposite 20. Yes, balance by the opposite 20. So now balance the joint C for this 20 kilonewton load. So 20 towards left, balance by the 20 towards right. So what is the net force now? The net force, both are in the same direction, so we'll add up. So it is 25 plus 20, that is 45, and you can see that it is automatically balancing the member CD. Is it clear? Yes or no? So if any member is subjected to tensile load, then due to tensile load there is an elongation, and this elongation is taken as positive. Okay, and due to compressive load there is compression, and compression is taken as negative. Okay, so when if I want to find delta AD, I'm writing delta AD as delta AB plus delta BC plus delta CD. So AB member has a length of 1 meter, BC has 2 meter, CD has again 1 meter. Okay, so this AB, suppose I am writing P1 L1 upon AE. AE is constant throughout, so I am writing AE, P2 L2 by AE plus P3 L3 by AE. Now this everyone know, but the changes comes from here when we don't understand how to apply the units. Okay, so the load is in kilonewton. Okay, the load is in kilonewton and the length is in meter. The load is in kilonewton, the length is in meter. Okay, so at the bottom we should get units somewhere around that. Okay, so see here, I'm writing 1 by AE, P1 L1. What is P1? 15 tensile for the member AB, so plus 15. Length is 1, 15 into 1 plus. See here, it is compressive of 20, so minus 20 into 2 plus P3, it is compressive of 45, so minus 45 into 1. Is it clear? Right. So in the above there is a unit of kilonewton meter. Now let us see the unit of AE. So area is 5 centimeter square and E is how much? 200 gigapascal, which I write 200. Okay, 200 gigapascal. Now let us understand what is gigapascal. Gigapascal means 200 into 10 to the power 9 Newton per meter square. Okay, so this can be written as 200 into 10 to the power 9 into 10 to the power minus 6 Newton per mm square. Okay, so this can be written as 2 into 10 to the power 5 Newton per mm square or megapascal. I'm giving what are the different ways they can give you the E value. Okay, and what does the unit means? Now area is given in centimeter square, so if I write in meter square, we'll get 500, sorry, mm square, we'll get 500 mm square. So if I get AE What will be the AE? 2 into 10 power 5 into 500. What? Newton per mm square into mm square. Yes or no? So what will happen? Mm square cancel out. So at the bottom you are getting the unit of Newton, and the top you are having the unit of kilonewton. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert this into kilonewton. So 2 into 500, that is 10 power 3 into 10 power 5. This is Newton. So if I want to convert it by kilonewton, I need to divide by 10 power 3. I need to divide by 10 power 3. So what will happen? The answer will become 10 power 5 kilonewton. Is it clear? The answer will become 10 power 5 kilonewton. Right? So that is your AE. That is your AE. Right? So now I want to find delta AD. I want to find delta AD. So 1 by 10 power 5 into, at the top you are having value 15, 15 minus 40 minus 45. Okay, what is the unit? At the top the unit was kilonewton meter, at the bottom the unit is kilonewton. See, one thing that you should be very clear, you should be very concerned for your units, and you can see that in the calculation part, right? Units are very important, especially for the GATE exam. The reason being, they used to ask question by just changing the units, and you write the wrong answer even after all your calculations are correct. So kilonewton cancelled out, you get the answer in meter. So what's the value? Minus, clearly it is seeing that's minus. So minus 70 upon 10 power 5 meter. Okay, so that is value is very less. I need to convert in mm. So minus 70 into 10 upon 10 power 5, converting in 10 power 3. So you get the answer in mm. So the value is 10 power 2 at the bottom. So 10 power minus 2, that is minus 0.7 mm. Is it clear? Minus indicate that there is a net compression. Minus indicate that there is a net compression. So this is your answer. Delta AD is equal to minus 0.7 mm. Right? So just look at the solution. Just look at the solution once. Any problem, please ask. Just look at the solution one. Any problem, please ask. Any problem, please ask. Any problem, please ask. Yes, any problem? Any problem? Please ask. Okay. Let us see the question number 2. Okay, or one more thing that can be asked from this part. In the question 1 only, I am extending. Question 1 only I am extending. Question 1. Second part. Draw the axial thrust diagram. Draw the axial thrust diagram. Draw the axial thrust diagram. What do you mean axial thrust diagram? It's a diagram which is indicating what is the axial force acting on the different bars. Okay, there are 3 bars, A, B, B, C, C, D, right? So at the different section of the bar, what is the load? So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw this diagram of the loading, right? So here it was given as 15, right? 15, then 35, then 25, and the last it was 45 with A, B, C, D. Okay, so just look here how to draw the diagram. You will be moving left to right. You will be moving left to right. So if you are moving left to right, the area that you need to consider for reference should be taken to the right of the loading. For example, if the 15 load you can see, so you need to take the area to the right, that is at the tail, right? Similarly, for the 35, you're moving left to right, you need to consider the area towards the right, that is towards head of the load, right? Similarly, for C also at the head and D at the tail. Okay, so if you keep the area towards right while moving left to right. If you keep the area towards right and the load is acting away from the cross section, it will be taken as tensile, and if it is acting towards the cross section, it will be taken as compressive. Okay, so I'm writing few points before drawing the diagram. Left to right, left to right, area at right, okay, away from area is tension, and tension is taken as positive. Okay, towards the area there is a compression, and compression is taken as negative. Okay, so if I draw the diagram, so AB, there is a, taking the area towards right, there is a tension, so I will extend upward, tension positive, upward 15. Now A to B there is no load, so I will make it constant. I'll make it constant, indicating that throughout AB the load is 15. Now you can see after taking the area towards right, 35 is compressive in nature. So compressive means minus. So 15 minus 35, that is minus 20, right? So again B to C, no load, so constant. At C again you can see the compressive nature. So compressive of 20, so 25. So minus 20, minus 25 become minus 45, constant. And again now you are taking the area towards right. So there you can see the tensile of 45. So minus 45 plus 45, it will come back to 0. Okay. So what does this indicate? If I look at the A, B, C, D, so it is indicating that over the length AB, there is a tensile load of 15. Over the length BC, there is a compressive load of 20. And over the length of CD, there is a compressive load of 45. Is it clear? So what can they ask you further is, what is the maximum tensile stress on the bar, and what is the maximum compressive stress on the bar? Maximum compressive stress on the bar. So what is maximum tensile stress? Load is 15, only one tension region is there, and area is A. So what is area? 15 kilonewton upon 5 centimeter square. So that you can solve further, right? 3 kilonewton per centimeter square. You can change it according to the unit mentioned in the question. Okay. Then what is the maximum compressive stress? Maximum force compression is 45, area is constant. So 45 by area, that is 45 by 5. So it is 9 kilonewton per centimeter square. You can change according to the unit asked in the question. Is it clear? So this is the another question that can be asked in the axial thrust diagram. Okay. Is this point clear? Is this question clear? Yes. Say, is this question clear to you all? Is this question clear to all? Okay. So just have a look. Just have a look at the question. Okay. So let us look at the second question. So what does the second question say? That for the fixed bar shown in the figure, determine support reaction, and also draw axial thrust diagram. Okay, given that A is constant, is it clear? So let me give you the question diagram. There is a Fitts bar subjected to the axial load of P 2P. Okay, length is L by 3, L by 3, L by 3, and it is given that A is constant. So will you try this, or do you want to try this? Do you want to try this? Yes. Do you want to try this? Okay. So see, first of all, we should roughly decide the reaction direction at the support. So if the load is axial, the reaction will be axial. Although it is a fixed support, right? You cannot see any vertical reaction or the moment because the load is axial. So the reaction will also be axial. So the reaction direction will be axial only. So I'm going to assume the direction depending on the load. So net force of the load is in right direction. So I will assume the force in the left just for my convenience. Saying the load as RA and RD. Okay. Okay. And for the equilibrium to hold, summation Fx must be equal to 0. Yes. Let us say the right is positive and left is negative. Right is positive and left is negative. So how you are going to write this? See, left is negative, right? So minus RA plus P plus 2P minus RD. This is equal to 0. So from here what you can write? RA plus RD. This is equal to 3P. RA plus RD. This is equal to 3P. Yes or no? So RA plus RD becomes equal to 3P. Okay. So for FBD, you should be considering this equilibrium to hold. Okay. Free body diagram. I'm going directly with the shortcut now. That's the objective approach. Directly I'm going to move with the objective approach. So there are 3 bodies, 1, 2, 3. Okay. I want you all to first draw with the free body diagram. Please draw free body diagram. I'm giving you 1 minute. Draw free body diagram. I'm giving 1 minute. Please draw free body diagram. Draw free body diagram fast. Try to draw the free body diagram. For this case. Then only I will explain. Yes. Try the free body diagram. Try the free body diagram. Okay, let's see then. So what we have seen, the RA is acting towards left, then P moving left to right should be on the right body. So P, then 2P, and then RD. So this is according to the question. Now let me balance this. So RA towards left for the first, then balance with the RA towards right. Joint balance. Let's give the name to the joints A, B, B, C, C, D. Okay. So balancing the joint B. So RA balanced by the RA opposite towards left. So now either you can take RA minus P or you can take P minus RA. If you take RA minus P, the direction will be towards RA. If you take P minus RA, then the net direction will be towards P. Okay. So what I am going to, the net direction is towards RA. So I am writing RA minus P. This is also RA minus P. Okay. Now look at the C point. C point, balance the C point. So Ra minus P towards right, balance the Ra minus P towards left. Now see here, you need to find the net force such that it is balancing the RD. So obviously the net force should be towards right, then only it can balance the RD, and the value should be what? If you are writing the force direction towards right, so you are assuming 2p is more, so 2p minus Ra minus P, and if you are writing 2p minus Ra minus P, that is means it is 3p minus Ra, and you can see that RD is equal to 3p minus Ra. So this imply your object is balanced, your body is balanced. Is it clear? Now this is a Fitts bar. So if it is a Fitts bar, then delta AD must be equal to 0. Yes or no? So if delta AD is equal to 0, what we can write? Delta AB plus delta BC plus delta CD, this is equal to 0. Yes or no? So what is delta AB? What is delta AB? RA is tensile, so RA into all the lengths are L by 3 upon AE plus BC RBC minus, it is again tensile, so RA minus P into L by 3 upon AE. Next it is compressive, so minus, see I am not writing RD, I am writing RA because I need to find the value of RA exactly now. So I am directly representing RD in terms of RA. So I am writing 3P minus RA, it is compressive, so I am writing minus into L by 3 upon GIP, upon AE. This is equal to 0. So from here I can take out common part, that is L by 3 AE, I can take common, and inside becomes RA plus RA minus P plus RA minus 3P, and this is equal to 0. So from here what we get? 3RA minus 4P is equal to 0, since L by 3AE cannot be 0. So from here the RA value get as 4P by 3. RA value get as 4P by 3. And what is RD value? RD is what? Nothing but 3P minus RA. Yes or no? 3P minus RA. So that is what? 3P minus RA is what? 4P by 3. So that is what? 5P by 3. Is it clear? Is it clear? Right. So next it has asked to draw the what? Your axial thrust diagram. It has asked to draw the axial thrust diagram. So let us draw the axial thrust diagram. Let us draw the axial thrust diagram. Let us draw the axial thrust diagram. Again, the concepts are same. It is not changing. Okay. So RA is what? RA is what? 4P by 3. So it is positive. So same direction as we assume. So 4P by 3. Then P. Then 2P. RD is also positive. So same as we assume, that is 5P by 3. So these are the values of the reaction we are getting. Okay. Now we can draw the free body diagram. First try on your own. First try the free axial thrust diagram on your own. First draw the axial thrust diagram on your own. Yes. Draw the axial thrust diagram. 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 Done? Done? Okay, see then. 4P by 3 tensile, area is towards right. So 4P by 3. Okay. Then A to B constant. Now P is compressive as the area is towards right. So you get the value of P by 3. Then again it is constant. Again it is constant. Now again there is a compressive of 2P. So minus 2P from P by 3 plus P by 3. So you will reach minus of 5P by 3 constant Now again there is a tensile of 5p/3, so it is plus, so minus plus 0. Okay, so plus plus minus. I think you can explain what is the maximum tensile force and what is the maximum compressive force from this diagram. Yes or no? This is the axial thrust diagram. This is the axial thrust diagram. So what is the maximum tensile force? The maximum tensile force will be what? 4p/3 or p/3? 4p/3. And what is the maximum compressive force? That is 5p/3. Is it clear? Is it clear? Yes or no? Okay. See then. Solve the next question. Question number 3. Question number 3. For the rigid bar, rather than bar, I'm saying beam, rigid beam attached to the cable as shown in the figure, determine the tensile force in the cable, right? I need to find the tensile force in the cable. So let me give you the question. This is your rigid beam. Okay, this is the rigid beam. It is attached to the hinge at one end. Okay, and it is subjected to the load of P at the center of the beam. So here the length is L/2 and the other side it is L/2. Okay, and it is given that the two cables are there which is resisting this P load, The cables are A and B. Okay, and the distance of cable A and B from the hinge joint is given as, this is small a, and from B it is given as small b. Okay, so you need to find the tension in the cable A and tension in the cable B. You need to find tension in the cable A and you need to find tension in the cable B. Okay, so first of all you should understand what do you mean a rigid beam. See, a beam is any member subjected to transverse loading, first of all. Second, rigid means due to the applied load, the beam will not bend. It will move as a rigid body. Okay, for example, if I say this pen is a rigid. Okay, so when I want to rotate, it will rotate as a rigid body. Okay, so that is the meaning of rigid beam. So now try to understand, if I draw the free body diagram of rigid beam, so what I can see on this rigid beam, there is an upward force of TB from cable B, there is upward force of TA from cable A, there is a downward force of P, and at hinge there are two reactions, one vertical, second horizontal, right? That can be possible at the hinge. So I'm writing vertical A, horizontal A. Okay, so see here, we have 4 unknowns in this problem. Okay, and in a 2 dimension we have 3 equilibrium equation. So if we have 4 unknowns and 3 equilibrium equation, it is not possible to get the solution. It is not possible to get the solution just by 3 equilibrium equation. I need one additional compatibility condition to solve this question. And what is that compatibility condition? That is hidden in the word rigid. That is hidden in the word rigid. So when I apply the load P on the rigid beam, it is going to move downward, but that as a rigid body. See here, I say this is the original position and it moves down as a rigid body. Okay, so this distance is small b, the other distance small a. So it is moving as a rigid body, so throughout the length the slope will be same. Here I am saying the deflection as delta a, so delta b, and at a point I am saying the deflection as delta a. So what is the additional compatibility condition that you got is delta b by b is equal to delta a by a. From where I got? That is nothing but tan theta. Nothing but tan theta. So if I explain this further, since see the load is axial on the wire, so I can write this as PL by AE, yes or no? So delta B, what we can write? TB into length is not given, but we can assume the length of A and B to be same. So let us say the length is L dash. Let us say the length is L dash. Okay. So TB into L dash upon AE. Bottom it is B. At the A it is TA into L dash by A into A. Okay. So you can see L dash A and L dash A cancelled out. So you got the equation as TB by B is equal to TA by A. So I can write this as TB is equal to TA into B by A. Is it clear? Is it clear? Yes or no? I can write this TB is equal to TA into B by A. So I got one equation in terms of TB and TA, and I need to find TB and TA, so I need one additional equation. So get one equation in which you get only TB and TA and no other unknown. So that can be possible by using one of the equation from the three, that is either summation Fy, summation Fx or moment. So if you use summation Fy, you will get three unknowns. If you use summation Fx, again you cannot get TA and TB. So left with one option, that is moment. So at which point you should find the moment, so that you get the equation in terms of TA and TB. Tell me at which point you should use the equation so that you get the equation in terms of TA and TB. Tell. If you use the moment about hinge, right? So if you use summation moment about hinge is equal to 0, taking clockwise as positive and anti-clockwise as negative. Okay, clockwise positive, anti-clockwise as negative. So this distance was L by 2. From TB the distance was B, and TA the distance was A. So P will create anti-clockwise moment and TA and TB will create clockwise moment. So let me write TA into A plus TB into B minus P into L by 2. This is equal to 0. Yes or no? So from here, TA into A, TB we can substitute from the previous derivation, that is TA into, become B square by A. This is equal to PL by 2. So from here, what we get? TA A square plus B square by A is equal to PL by 2. So TA you obtain as PAL by 2 A square plus B square. A is equal to PL upon 2 A square plus B square. Okay. And next, what is TB? What is TB? What is TB? It will come TA into B by L, B by A, right? So A cancelled out. You get the value of PB into L upon 2 A square plus B square. Is it clear? Is it clear? Right? Just see the derivation once. Just see how we have solved. Just see how we have solved. Just see how we have solved. Yes, any problem? Any problem? Is it clear? Is it clear? Sure. Okay, then let us see the next question. I want this question to be solved by you fast. Question 4. For the system shown in the figure, bar springs for the beam spring system, for the beam spring system shown in the figure, determine the ratio of the forces on the spring, that is FA is to FB is to FC. So there are 3 springs attached. Let me show that. There is a rigid beam, okay, and a hinge is attached. First spring you can see, then second, and then third. Okay, each spring has a stiffness. Let us say these are A, B and C. So A has a stiffness of 3K, B has stiffness of 2K, C has stiffness of K, and their distances are A, 2A and 3A. Okay, now a load is applied on the rigid beam P, which is at a distance of L by 2 from the hinge. So you have been asked to find what is the ratio of forces on the spring A, B and C. Do you like to try? Yes? Would you like to try? Please fast. I'm giving you the options also. 1:4:9. B, 9:4:1. C, 1:1:1. D, none of these. Come on, try. Give me the response. Which of the following 4 options will be correct? Find the ratio of the forces. Same concept as we discussed in the previous question. Same concept will be applied. Yes. Okay, see then, it is a rigid beam, right? So if it is a rigid beam, it is going to deflect as a rigid member. So for the 3 different spring C, B, A, deflection are delta C, delta B and delta A. Okay, so what we can write? The lengths are A, 2A, 3A. So what we can write? Tan theta is equal to delta C by A is equal to delta B by 2A is equal to delta A by what? 3A. Yes or no? So with delta C, what we can write? Spring delta, force upon stiffness, right? So delta C is what? Force in the member C upon stiffness is K into A. B, F, force in member B upon 2A into 2K. For A, it is force in A upon 3A into 3K. Yes or no? So what will be the ratio? K cancelled out. Yes or no? A cancelled out. You get the ratio as FA is to FB is to FC. This is equal to 9 is to 4 is to 1. So the answer is B. Someone might have got A. That is wrong. Someone might have got C. That is wrong. And D is not possible. Okay. So see here, we have solved few questions of this stress part. I'm telling you very clearly, this type of question they used to ask in the exam, and you fear for the questions. Okay, don't ever fear with the spring question. There's nothing as such in the spring. Never fear with the spring questions. Just go with the basic, try to solve the question, you will be able to clear it. Okay, so now we have completed the 4 question. You can see that 4 question, and these are the basic questions that are generally asked in your exam, right? So we have completed these 4 questions. We have completed these 4 questions. Okay, completed these 4 questions. Now I will come back to the strain energy. As I told, I will be coming back to the topic again. I will come back to the strain energy. So there we have understood that resilience, proof resilience. Okay, we have seen for the what? Gradual load. Okay, now we are going to distribute our study in 3 parts. One is a gradual load, one is your sudden load, and other is a impact load. Okay, so strain energy, first of all we are going to talk about gradual load. Gradual load. So what is gradual load? What is gradual load? It is the load which is applied slowly at a certain rate, okay. So we are applying this load slowly. Okay, like suppose I need to apply 10 kilonewton, so I'll not apply 10 kilonewton directly, okay, on the surface. I'll first apply 2, then 2, then 2, then 2, then 2. So this is the rate. I'm applying a certain rate to the body. Okay, so what I'm going to see in the gradual load, if I draw the load deflection curve, so you are applying the load gradually, that means you are increasing your load slowly. Okay, so you can see this curve, right? So for a particular P, you can see delta that we have already seen written as PL by A. Yes or no? So the strain energy, that is U, is written as half into P into delta. We have seen many formulas. Now look here, we can write this half into P delta. What we can write? PL upon A. So that is what? P square L upon 2AE. So the strain energy is given as P square L upon 2AE. This is your strain energy 1 formula. Okay, next. This is the first part. Second, what we can write? This U as P by A, if I take common and I take the square, upon 2E. So what is the left in the numerator? L, and we need to multiply with the A, right? So this P by A I am writing as stress. So sigma square by 2E into what is L into A? Nothing but volume of component. Yes, we have already seen. So this U is equal to sigma square by 2E upon volume of component. So sigma is given as P by A. Sigma is given as P by A. Okay, that's the second formula. Third formula I am going to write in terms of delta only. So U is written, you have written as half into, you have written as half into P into delta, right? So I need to write P in terms of delta. So what I can write P in terms of delta? I know that delta is equal to PL by A. Yes or no? So what we can write? P is equal to delta A by L. Can we write? Okay, so what we are going to write? U is equal to half into P is delta A by L. So multiply with the delta at the other, so it is delta square. So it becomes delta square AE upon 2L. Is it clear? Is it clear? Yes. So that is your U part. Okay, that is your U part. Is it clear? Yes. Okay. So this is the strain energy stored in the body due to gradual load. Okay. So these are the three formulas. Is it clear? Okay. Then see now. Next, I'm going to talk about sudden load. Next, I'm going to talk about sudden load. Sudden load on the structure. So what do you mean sudden load? For example, when I seen the gradual load 10 kilonewton, I need to apply. So I didn't apply the 10 kilonewton directly. I applied 2, 2, 2 like this. Okay. But sudden load, I will apply directly 10 kilonewton on the body. Not falling from height, but we are placing it. Okay. So in this particular case, if I draw the load deflection curve, so the P load I applied directly. The P load I applied directly. So you can see the deformation corresponding to P. So delta you are going to write not PL by A. See, it is 2 PL by A because we need to consider the average load. So when you got PL by A, the average load was 0 plus P by 2. So that is P by 2. So for P by 2, you are getting the deflection as PL by A. But for the second case, the average load is P plus P by 2, that is P. So if for P by 2, you are getting the deflection as PL by A. For P, you will get the deflection as 2 PL by AE, right? You are getting the deflection as 2 PL by AE. So this is the strain energy, that is resilience. So U is given as P into delta. So this delta is equal to 2 PL upon AE. So this become equal to 2 P square L upon AE. Okay, so this is the one formula for the strain energy. Okay, this is one formula for the strain energy. Other, if I write in terms of stress, so what I'm writing, U is equal to, I'm writing 2P by A, this whole square. So bottom you can see 2E and this multiply with A into L. So what is this 2P by A? This I'm writing as stress. This I'm writing as stress. So F square by 2E into A into L. So what is F? This is nothing but stress and this is nothing but equal to 2P by A. Is it clear? So again you got a formula in terms of stress. Okay. Last, in terms of delta, if I want to write, U is equal to P into delta. So I know that delta is equal to 2PL by A. Delta is equal to 2PL by A. So P will become equal to delta AE by 2L. So from here, what we can write? P is equal to delta AE by L. So it becomes delta square AE upon delta A square AE upon 2L. This is the strain energy. Delta square AE upon 2L. Is it clear? This is your strain energy. That's a sudden load. Okay. So U is equal to delta square AE upon 2L. Is it clear? Right. So now let me compare both the result which I obtained from gradual and sudden load. So you can see that in the gradual load, the strain energy is P square L upon A, 2A, and in the sudden it is 2P square L upon A. So what conclusion can you draw? That the energy or resilience in the sudden load is 4 times that of gradual load. Okay. If I talk about the deflection deformation, so the deformation is 2 times that of the gradual load. And if I talk about the stress, then stress is also 2 times that of the gradual load. Is it clear? So let me give this conclusion. It will be used in the objective. See, note, what I'm going to write, compared to gradual load in sudden load, what, your deformation and stress are 2 times. Okay, important for the objective. And strain energy is what, 4 times. Is it clear? So this can be used in the objective part. Okay, next we are going to see impact load, strain energy due to impact load. Okay, so what do you mean impact load? Suppose there is a bar of length L, cross section area A, Young's modulus E. Okay, and I'm applying the external load of W, but that external load is falling from a height of H. Okay, that external load is falling from a height of H. So when it is falling from a height of H and it fall on the body, then since the body is deformable, so what you can see, there is a deformation also in the body. Okay, there is a reduction in the length of the bar by, let us say, delta. So the length of the bar become L minus delta, and at that point the body, the external load of W has been resting on the body. So this W load has performed certain work, that is the external work, and this external work is stored in the body in the form of strain energy. So what we can write, external work done is equal to strain energy. So what is the external work done? That is W times H plus delta. Yes or no? And what is the strain energy? See, if I say the sudden load or if I take the gradual load, both you can see the written in the form of delta square AE upon 2L. So that I'm writing as delta square AE upon 2L. Okay, so I'm not going to elaborate this, solve the quadratic equation. I'm going to give you the result. So if I'm writing delta static is equal to PL upon AE, then delta is given as delta static plus just a minute, what we can write about delta, just a minute. Yes, we write delta static as delta is equal to delta static plus root over delta static का square plus 2 into H into delta static. Okay, now try to understand how this form has arrived in the form of that minus B. If you remember the form AH square plus BH plus C, you write the solution as H is equal to minus B plus minus root over B square minus 4AC upon 2A. You write that, yes or no? Similarly, we are writing this. So you can see that if H is equal to 0, That is, if H is equal to 0, then what will that? It will be a sudden load, and if H is equal to 0, then delta is what? 2 times del static. That is nothing but 2 PL by A. Yes or no? This we only know. Yes or no? Because this is the case of sudden. This is a sudden load. Okay. So that is about delta. And what is stress? What will happen to the stress? Sigma, that I'm writing as W by A, 1 plus root over 1 plus 2 into H upon delta static. So this is the formula again. If H is equal to 0, the sigma will become 2W by A. That is a stress due to the sudden load. Yes or no? So you need to remember this formula for your objective. Till now, it has not asked in the civil due to impact load, but who knows in the future. So we will be ready for all type of questions. So that is due to impact load. Next, last thing that we are going to see today will be your superposition principle. So what we have talked about superposition principle? What do you know about superposition principle? Yes. What do you know about superposition principle? Say. What do you know about superposition principle? Say. Yes. The effect of multiple loading same as the effect of individual loading at a point. Okay. Summation of effect of individual loading at a point. But I have also mentioned few statements. What? That if load is within, proportionality limit, and stress function like shear force, bending moment, twisting moment, angle of twist, okay, then slope, deflection, etc., varies linearly with the load applied, then the effect of multiple loading at a point is same as summation of effect of individual loading at the same point. So this is your superposition theorem. Very important. See this theorem, why I have written complete detail, reason being if you understand this theorem, then question solving will become very easy for you all. Okay, so now as I already discussed that suppose a bar is there. Okay, it is subjected to the load of P1. This P1 load is within the proportionality limit. So due to this, the deformation is there. That deformation is delta. Okay, if I remove the load, it will regain its original position. Right now, on the same bar, if I apply the load of P2, that P2 load is within the proportionality limit. So again, it is subjected to deformation. Let us say the deformation is delta 2. Again, if I remove the load, it will regain its original position. And now, if I apply the load of P1 plus P2, P2 and writing deformation as delta, then this delta I'm writing as delta 1 plus delta 2. But why I'm able to write so? See here, P1, what is delta 1? Nothing but P1 into, if a length is L, A is the area of cross section and E. Delta 2, what you are going to write? P2 into L upon A. Yes or no? Delta 3, what you are going to write? P1 plus P2 into L upon A. Yes or no? So what you can see, if you add delta 1 plus delta 2, that is P1 into L upon A and P2 into L upon A. So that will become P1 plus P2 into L upon A, and that's why the superposition theorem is valid. Okay, and this is possible because the stress function, that is delta here, is varying linearly with the load applied. If the variation is not linear, you cannot see this relation, you cannot use the superposition theorem. For example, if I talk about the strain energy, in this case only, if I talk about the strain energy U, so what you are going to write? U1, it is P1 square L upon 2AE. I'm talking about the gradual load. We have just seen about the gradual load. See here, we have just seen about the gradual load. We have seen that P1 square L upon 2AE, P square L upon 2AE. Yes or no? So that I'm going to apply. So U1 is equal to P1 square L upon 2AE. U2 will be equal to P2 square L upon 2AE. And if you add both U1 plus U2, so U1 plus U2 will become P1 square L plus P2 square L upon 2AE. Yes or no? Whereas if I talk about U, that is acting due to P1 plus P2, so that U will be P1 plus P2 whole square L upon 2AE. Okay, if I expand this, it will become P1 square L plus P2 square L plus 2 P1 into P2 into L upon AE. So you can clearly see that U is greater than U1 plus U2. It is not equal to U1 plus U2. So this indicates that strain energy superposition principle cannot be applied to the strain energy. Is it clear? So that's why I am saying that you cannot apply the superposition theorem when the stress function does not vary linearly with the load applied. Is it clear? So just mention here, note. What is the note? Note is superposition principle. Superposition principle cannot be applied to the strain energy. Cannot be applied to the strain energy. Is it clear? Is it clear? Say, is it clear to all? Right? Why we cannot apply the superposition principle? And remember this relation, it can be asked in the objective. Okay, can be asked in the objective. Right? So we have clearly specified the superposition principle. We have clearly seen the strain energy due to gradual load, sudden load, impact load, and their formulas. We have seen that what is the change from gradual to sudden load, how many times deformation and stress changes, and how many times strain energy changes. Is it clear? Yes. So see, that's all from today's class. Right? अब समझो, देखो आज थोड़ा सा बात करते हैं. I as a teacher believe in one thing. I believe that to make my students learn more and more, and I am trying based on that. I'm giving my level best, right? But it can be done only when you are continuous to my class, right? If you not continuous in the live session, if you're not continuous, it feels like I'm not able to deliver, right? So it's you who will be motivating me more and more. for the classes, right? And one announcement I'm going to make, that at the end of the subject, right, I'm going to give one student the subscription for free, right? But that depends on how much interactive you all are, how many friends you are here with you at this particular site, at this particular page, so that more and more students are there. Okay, so please tell your friends to come here. I hope I'm giving the content which is enough for the gate and DSE, don't require anything else. So please come to this platform, enjoy this platform, and I am very clear that if you are regular to this, your 50% job is done, and you just need to practice more and more to work hard, okay, to get the good result. Thank you. We'll meet tomorrow then.